I said, this is where I first met you, right here. And I walked her to the back of the church and I said, you were right here and I was right here. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I said, what did you see when you saw me? And she said, well, I saw you. And I thought, wow, he doesn't really come to church that often. And I laughed. I said, you want to know what I saw when I saw you? And she said, yeah. And I told her, I said, you know, I saw a family, I saw my life, I saw everything ahead of me. You know, you have near-death experiences, you see your life behind you. I just had my eyes opened up and I saw everything ahead of me.
I went to church one day and I saw him there and I was like, what is he doing here? Like, I don't ever see Miles here at church. So I was all nervous and I sat like 8 pews in front of him and I was just like, does my hair look okay? Like, I don't even know. Like, I'm super nervous right now.
It was January 3rd of 2016 and I woke up that morning, Dad was beating on my door and he said, you can either come to work with me today or you can go to church. And I was like, well, if I go to work, that means I have to get up at 7, but if I go to church, I can wait till about 9, you know, sleep in a little bit. So I decided to sleep in and I went through church, the whole thing, and when church is over, we're all walking out and I see this girl behind me and she's just the most beautiful girl in the world.
After church, he just kept looking me down and trying to make eye contact, and I could definitely tell he was trying to get my attention.
And I turn around to say hi to her and I open my mouth and nothing comes out. So I turn around, face forward again, and I'm like, oh, she totally saw me. That was so awkward. So I turn around again and I open my mouth, say hi, and somebody else says hi to her and she doesn't hear me, but she saw me turn around again. I was like, oh no. And I knew right then I was gonna marry her. In church, I said, God, I'm gonna marry this woman. It was like a blessing to me. I started going to basketball practice and stuff like that, and she would stay late. She would tutor religion to the kids, like the public kids after school.
Miles had speech classes at the same time, and it was on Wednesday evenings.
And I got smart. She did it every Wednesday. So every Wednesday I would schedule my speech practice so I could see her in the hallway.
I was like, okay, I might add him on Snapchat tonight. Let's just see how it goes. I'm just gonna be gutsy for once and just add him. And so I added him and he snapped me right away and kind of all started from there.
Okay. Eventually she added me on Snapchat and I was too scared to ask her for her number, so she sent it and she asked me for mine. So
I'd say our official first date was when we went to, we were gonna go to a wedding, I thought, but then he thought I already went to the wedding, so he picked me up and he was dressed in normal clothes and I was dressed for a wedding, and he's like, no, like, we're just heading to Subway, I just want to get something to eat. I was like, oh, okay. So we head there to Subway in his Jeep, and
I got her to learn how to drive my parents' Jeep. It's a stick shift, and I got her to actually try it. And I know this little spot a little down the road from here. It's just a creek and it's a bridge, and it's not a real popular road, but at that time of the year it was really green and the water was flowing. It was really beautiful, and we just pulled down there and we put the headlights on the bridge and we listened to music, and I got her to dance with me, and I taught her how to slow dance. And
turns on his music and we start dancing, and then watch the sunset together on top of the Jeep.
We sat up on the hood of the Jeep, which if Dad's hearing this now, he's gonna be like, oh my gosh, but sat up on the hood of the Jeep and we watched the stars with a blanket, and it was pretty great. So that was our first real date.
I'd give it to him. He was persistent, and so he stuck around, and I'd say that was the first time that I was like, all right, we can go somewhere.
We started dating in May, and 1 week after we started dating, I was like, let's carve our names into a tree. And so we did 1 week after started dating, and I just told her, I was like, I wouldn't be doing this to you if I didn't see something, in the future. And she said, well, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think you were a good guy. So we carved our names into a tree at one of our farm places.
It's like, how about we carve our names in the tree right here, and then maybe in 50 years we can look back and this is where it all started, this is where it all began.
I knew she was going to be my wife when I brought her home, and she fit right in. I have 5 sisters and no brothers. And when my 5 sisters are looking forward to me coming over for her to be there, I was like, that's the one. She's the one. The proposal, I wanted to take her back somewhere really special to her. So in my mind, it was either go back to the creek for the first date or go to the church where I saw her. So I take her to the church on January 3rd of 2018, I think it was. It was 2 years from the day I first saw her.
We had plans to go to church, and that was a day after he had told me that he does not want to get engaged, so I was not even seeing it coming. And we get in there, we're praying together, and he's just thanking God for me. And then he's like, all right, I want to like show you where I first saw you and where it all like started going down and everything. And I was like, okay, yeah. And so he kind of reenact of how we met or how he saw me. And he's like showing me around the church, and this is where I looked back and was a fool for the 3rd time and didn't talk to you. And so he pulls me to the back of the church and tells me to look forward, and I was like, okay. And he's just like, so what did you see when you first saw me? And I was like, I remember like trying to impress you and get your attention. And then I was like, and then when you added me on Instagram, I don't know, it all started from there. And it was just so, it meant so much to me because I never thought I'd meet the love of my life in church, and so that was really cool.
I got down on one knee, I said, you can turn around, and I was on one knee. And she puts her hands up to her face.
I was like, oh boy, I had no idea that he was going to be proposing to me that day. I think he said, Heather, will you marry me? And I was like, oh boy, did you ask my dad? Like, that's literally the first thing that came out of my mouth.
And she starts crying, and she says, did you ask my dad? And I said,
yes, of course I asked your dad. And I'm like, God, thinking in my head, I should have known that.
yes, I did, but will you marry me? And she was like in tears or whatever, and she said, yes, I will. And I put the ring on her finger, and we hugged, and I think we danced in the back of church, and it was great. Went to her place and told her parents, and her parents were the exact same way. They just were extremely happy. I recall when I asked him if I could marry his daughter, he said, I have 2 rules. He said, rule number 1, you don't have the wedding in deer season. He said, that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, take care of my daughter. And I said, I can do both of those things.
What I love about Miles is he is hardworking, has great work ethic, and is just completely supportive in everything I want to do and everything I pursue. So I really love that about him, and I just love the way he is around kids and family. And I think meeting his family and knowing his family made me love him even more.
She's the nicest person ever. I mean, she is so unique. She just has her own style. She's so nice. I can't stress that enough. I mean, she is just the nicest person in the world. And she's just full of love, just full of it, for people, things, places, events, memories, everything. And she is very, very great at remembering things like that.
That's one of our favorite things to say to each other is just, you bother me when you're bugging me, but it's from a movie that we love. It's called The Choice, and the man always says, you bother me, and you don't make it easy on me, and you make me frustrated and mad, but yet you make me smile while doing it, and you just shows how much you love me and you care for me.
She has a really great smile too. And you know, you could be in the hardest of times and you look and she has that smile. And that smile, you know, it just lets you know everything is going to be okay.
When you walked into the room, I couldn't keep my eyes off of you. Was it make-believe, or was it a dream? I've been waiting all my life. Feels like I've struck just take my